So for today's Total War video, I am going to rank every Total War title in terms of its performance. How good is the frame rate? How good are the graphics? What's the turn time like? Is it stable? Does it crash? What are loading times like? All for modern computers. Now that's important, it's for modern computers. By the way, this is from my experience, but I'm taking some suggestions into consideration as well. Some input I've had from you. I've played most of these titles on an old Core i3, a Core i5, and my new Core i9, with specs that sort of go and match those types of computers as well. So, let's begin. And at the bottom, I have put both in last place because they're equal here, Medieval 1 Total War and Shogun 1 Total War. Now, I'm not ranking them back down here because they're bad graphics. I am going to take the time into consideration, like the time they released. They're down here because they don't actually really run on modern computers. Compatibility issues, and a lot of old titles are going to be down here because of that. I can get it to run on my new PC, but for example, you're not seeing gameplay because my recording software simply cannot understand that it's a game and it cannot record it. That's how old this is. And many people have countless compatibility issues. It crashes quite a lot on new computers. For the time, it was, revolutionary, groundbreaking, I'll give it that. But this is looking at from like the new computers, how it runs today on most systems, and I've never really gotten these to work correctly. So overall, they are at the bottom of this list. But don't take any of this as me hating on these. They are good games, revolutionary for the time, but it's about how they are now on modern computers. And the simple issue is, for the most part, they don't even run. I love Total War Attila, but this is next on the list because it really does struggle. Now, on my Core i5 computer, it actually ran quite well compared to the other titles, but on my new upgraded computer, it doesn't run as good. It runs better than the old one, but the other titles are more optimised towards it. But Attila, there's not really that much of an improvement, really. Attila Total War has horrible turn times, and the frame rate does drop quite a bit at certain situations. It's also very unstable from my experience lately. I've had a lot of crashes, and this is on unmodded Attila. Quite a few crashes, and I'm not alone with this. A lot of people do say Attila does run poorly as well. Overall, I do like the game, but I got to admit, it struggles. Now, if I was to make this video before I got my new PC, I would say Attila Total War ran better than Rome 2. But after trying it on my Core i9, all of a sudden I feel that Rome 2 actually runs better, which is really weird. This is very weird. With Rome 2 on my old laptop, I got a lot of lag, frame drops, and the loading times are absolutely horrible. Like the worst campaign load times ever. Now on my new PC, the frame rate is a bit higher than Attila and it runs smoother, so that's the only reason why it's above Attila here. And a lot of people would put this above Attila as well. Rome 2, if you start a new campaign, again this is all my experience, it has the longest loading time out of any Total War. And I've got no idea why. Next up on this list, Rome Total War. Again for the same reasons as Shogun 1 and Medieval 1, but not as bad. It is compatibility. If you run it on Windows 10, there's quite high chances you will get a lot of lag, especially on the campaign. A lot of YouTubers have this problem. Some YouTubers cannot use fire arrows, some people cannot load like cutscenes. I got a lot of lag. There's also a small bug at times with if you use huge unit scale, where it simply just completely fails. However, I did rank it above the other two as overall turn time is very impressive. For the graphics, when you actually do get it to run, and it runs quite well, it is quite good considering how old it is. And there is also effects. If any of you have any issue running Rome Total War and you get like campaign lag, then search for the D3D8 file, search for a tutorial guide on YouTube, download that, install that, and that should help with campaign lag. It helped quite a lot for me. Overall, I love Rome 1, and from my experience it is above Rome 2 and Attila for how it runs, but I know a lot of you people out there cannot even get it to load up, and I feel sorry for you there, but a lot of you would rank it lower. This is where I put it from my experience. Next we have Warhammer 2 Total War. Overall, the campaign does take a long time to load, not as long as Rome 2 in my opinion. Also, turn times are really poor, the worst turn times I have ever experienced, even with the patch that speeds them up. However, battles actually run very smoothly, considering the high graphics and requirements that the game does have. It did run very smoothly. On my old laptop, however, it did not even load. I could not get Warhammer 2 to really work at all, even though the specs of my old laptop did cover the game and should have worked for it. It just didn't, which was very unfortunate. Overall, I'm also going to put Warhammer 1 in roughly the same spot. Warhammer 1 was difficult to judge, I'm just going to throw it in there, somewhere near Warhammer 2. Next on this list we have Empire Total War. Overall, I've never really had that many issues with it. Loading time could be a bit faster, the frame rate's usually okay. At the end of the day, I just threw it in the middle, along with Napoleon. I think Napoleon from my experience runs better, but overall, decent graphics, decent frame rate for the time, and there's really not that much more to say about it. It just runs in the middle. It's just normal. Coming into 4th place, we have Medieval 2 Total War. Now, I know a few people do struggle to get this to load and work, and there is a lot of lag, but overall, my experience of it has been quite good. It is an old title, but it is still, at least for now, compatible with the new computers, and does run reasonably okay. On my old computer, I did have frame drops, and even do have it a bit now with my new computer, which is just because it's old, and, you know, compatibility issues and stuff, but overall, compared to the other old titles, it does run very, very well. Okay, now third on this list, I have put Thrones of Britannia, and this runs actually extremely well, but then again, it's hardly got any content to load, so I can understand why. Thrones uses the Attila Total War engine, so I was a little bit worried, but because there's so much cut out of it, and it is, you know, the engine is still built on and improved a bit, it does actually turn out to run quite well. The frames per second are great, loading times don't have that much of an issue with, turn times are okay, and yeah, we've gotten out of all the bad ones now. These games, they just run okay at this point, quite good. Very, very rarely have an issue. Overall, Thrones of Britannia, from my experience, is very stable as well. Never had a crash with it. Even day 1 on launch, like, not one issue. Except for boredom. Second on this list, I have Three Kingdoms Total War. Taking into consideration that it is the latest title, it runs impeccably well, beautifully well. Like, you gotta, of course, me coming into this, when I first played Three Kingdoms, it was on my old laptop. That one could not run Warhammer 2 at all, but it could run Three Kingdoms, even though it's meant to be a step up. The battle frame rate on my new computer is about the same as Warhammer, but the loading times and the end turns are just much quicker. I remember being shocked when I first played it on my old computer that it could actually run as good as it does. Very little issues. It was a little bit unstable on launch, I did have a few crashes here and there, but overall, I can't complain, it does run incredibly well. Last, but certainly not least, we are here, number 1. Which Total War title runs the absolute best out of all of them, taking everything into consideration? And it is, of course, Shogun 2 Total War. On the highest graphics, this game looks beautiful, and it also looks good on the lower graphics as well if you need to drop that far. My old computer, the i5, could run this game on the highest graphics. It could run it, like full highest graphics, above 40 frames per second. The loading times are brilliant, turn times are brilliant, very rarely had an issue there, never had a crash, never, I don't think, even seen a bug. I don't think I've ever seen a bug in Shogun 2. It is by far the best running. When you consider that on my old computer, Rome Total War had to run on the lowest graphics, Medieval 2 lowest graphics, Empire and Napoleon were medium to high graphics, Attila and Rome 2 were normal graphics, and for those I averaged between 30 FPS and 60 FPS, but with Shogun 2 I could run it on ultra and still get within that same frames per second mark. It's actually incredibly impressive how well this game runs. I still cannot believe it to this day. The developers at CA, when creating that game, did a very good job with its optimisation. That being said though, like Thrones of Britannia, there is a lack of content with the units, because how many units actually are there? With Rome Total War, and you know, with most titles you have different cultures, but let's use Rome Total War as an example. Even the Macedonian and the Greek roster are completely different. However, with Shogun 2, every faction has the same units. You know, some might have one extra or two extra, but overall they are the same units. So there's much less content to actually load up, but overall, by being beautiful and running brilliantly, the game does kind of make up for that. And that is probably the best part about Shogun 2. The way that it actually runs. Anyway, this has been my list of my opinion. You know, everyone's got different experiences of Total War. I've tried to put some of your opinions in here as well, from what I've read over time, but it is for the most part my experience. I do hope you've enjoyed. Hope to see you in the next one. Please comment your list down below as well. Please share with anyone you think may be interested. Subscribe if you want to get notified of my next video. I am now streaming daily, so make sure you're there for that. Until the next one, goodbye.